Hi, my name is Nancy Love, and I'm speaking to you from San Diego, California, um, about yet another highly unpleasant topic. Sorry, I should probably just make my whole YouTube channel, the Planet Peace Project, 18 and over, but, age restricted. But it's actually the young people that really need to hear this, um, as well as some of the very old. I want to talk to you about a phenomenon that I've become only too painfully aware of in California and probably elsewhere, called the Rape Hotel. The Rape Hotel is a human trafficking operation that you will accidentally go to. It could be an Airbnb with more than one or two people, where the host stays and rents to several people at a time. It could be a hostel. It could be a hostel in Los Angeles or San Diego or somewhere, else. It could be a hotel where you get to rent a room with a door that locks. And it doesn't matter the type of organization or business model it has. What's happening at some of these places, and I know for sure because I've talked to the San Diego police, the Los Angeles police, the district attorney's office in LA, and some quite a few people in the FBI about this, even the DEA. I have talked to the DEA about this and Homeland Security because the DEA is interested in these things. And I was surprised because I was actually talking to them about running or helping them with a behavioral health program for their own agents because they have extremely high stress job, and people in police forces, the FBI and DEA and other agencies like that are not in any way immune to the terrors of alcoholism or drug addiction and drug use, ironically. But, they're like everybody else. They're doing it to numb themselves and try to forget what they know. So, what we have here, uh, the DEA is going to say is interested in this because these people are redistributing pharmaceuticals or using um, street drugs to sedate people so that they can sexually assault them and traffic them. And in one case, I knew some people who were running one of these things, and they claimed that the owner, who was a foreign national, who was an immigrant, was forcing them to do that. I do believe that one Mexican national woman was there as a slave. They extracted her from Mexico. She was illegal. She couldn't go to the cops. And she was being drugged, used as a trafficking victim, and they were also making her work often as much as 12 hours a day. I tried to help her, but the last I heard, she was, on the one hand, thrown into the street in a foreign country, barely able to speak the language, with no papers. And then, when I checked on her again, because I tried to get, the authorities to help her and so forth, they said that she was living with the owner of the business in Malibu in his mansion. So he apparently found her and took her in, but the woman is a slave in America. Let's face it, call it what it is. Um, Another situation I heard of, and it's extremely tragic because this extremely smart older white lady, who's even older than me, if that's possible, she's in her late 60s, I think, very, very sweet person, very intelligent, um, said that she was involved in this kind of situation only because her younger male, stronger employees were basically running the business, and that she was sort of their victim, and that she had once She was certain of it, been drugged by her own employees, and she found herself on the floor of a supply room, excuse me, of a supply room, and she'd obviously been raped. And she knew who did it, and for some reason there's old family associations with the one or more of the employees. So I said, good God, why didn't you fire them? And she said, because they know where she lives, they could hurt her business, they could hurt, physically harm her or her property. So she felt victimized, but at other times when she's highly inebriated or maybe high on something else, she says that she's a madam and she now runs a brothel, and the police love her and she's paid a lot of them off with bribes. And now, last report, she seems to think that her guests who pay to stay here and get, or where not here, but where she has the business pays to stay there are cash cows. She says she has a new business model and she makes money from female guests, especially two ways: when they pay to stay and when other people pay to rape them when they've been disadvantaged cognitively by being drugged. Yeah. So who knows which vacillation is going to be the vacillation she shows you, which, is she the victim or is she the perpetrator? From what I can tell, it's been both. She's been both a victim and a perp. And I just wish that at some point somebody had a sense of morality, decency, righteousness, and integrity and realized that you don't become a criminal in your fight against criminals. You become a criminal when the criminals have won your soul. And your soul is still the single most important thing you are. Not that you have. It's not that you have a soul, it's that you are a soul. And your soul is the most important thing you are. Not rich, not white, not black, not brown, not Asian, not poor, not abled, not, housed, not. There's nothing more important than you are. No label can be applied to you that is more important than your soul. But these people who are involved in this human trafficking rape hotel thing have sold their souls. And some of them, yeah, actually say that they are active devil worshippers and part of some satanic cult that is running rampant in Hollywood and other areas in Southern California. And that's even according to my old friend Charlie Beck. I used to know the current LAPD chief, Michael Moore, and I knew Charlie Beck when he was in there, and he left on June 23rd, I think, 2018. But even he said that some of his own officers were involved in a satanic cult, and it scared the hell out of him. And I said, why the heck don't you fire people? Just fire the heck out of them. There's plenty of young people who want to come up through the ranks. And he said that he actually might have more power over them if he was still their employer and still had control over whether they get their pension and so forth. And I said, well, I guess that makes sense. So he said he was trying rather desperately to control thousands of people, many of whom went renegade at some point and weren't anything like cops, were in fact criminals running the game. So it goes on. Some of these places seem so absolutely legitimate. You really will fall into them by renting a place to stay on a Airbnb type of site, booking.com, travel advisor or travel.com, kayak. All of these very legitimate, or at least seemingly very legitimate, room booking agencies have these rape hotels right there in the list. And the criminal conspiracy is rampant. There is all the kind of phenomena that occur when people are basically human trafficking hostages, right? They stalk you physically in person. They hack your Wi Fi signal if you use their public Wi Fi. They hack. I knew of a lady who stayed in one of these places. The manager ordered her out because he said he needed to spray for pests. What he did while she was out of the room was stick a flash drive in her computer, and she was astute enough to realize that someone had installed a drive D while she was out, and exactly what time it was. So she, and even the type of device it was, the brand and so forth, and model. So she knew exactly what had happened. But they actually hacked her laptop physically with a flash drive. They can hack your Wi-Fi signal if you've got a telephone hotspot. They can clone your phone. These days, I don't know too much about this, but apparently all you have to do is be within several feet of someone else's cell phone and you can actually clone it. It used to be around 5 feet. Most recently, I read that it's more feet than that. You don't have to be all that close physically to someone's phone to be able to hack it. So they know if you're trying to get help. They know if you've called the police. They, will try to prevent you from reporting them, obviously, and will threaten you, your property, your loved ones, because and worse, they will do worse than threaten because they have this massive criminal enterprise to protect, and a lot of them are using these places as money laundering operations and drug dealing operations. Think of it. They have a natural in for money laundering because a lot of their people will pay cash. So the IRS, the federal government, doesn't know exactly how much income this place really has from legitimate room rentals, right? Same with Airbnb. A private person who rents out a few rooms in their house can say, well, they made this much money or that much money. They can launder money very easily by renting rooms. Uh, the drug dealing, I know the FBI has shut down whole hotels. They just go in there, boom, they throw everybody in the street that they don't arrest. And a lot of hotels these days and hostels and Airbnb are actually residences for people who've been displaced due to age, disability, domestic violence situations, COVID, the crashed economy. So many people, 40 to 46 million people, became housing insecure. 46 million people in America alone became housing insecure due to COVID crash economy. And these places look legitimate. Some of them are very clean and pretty. Some of them aren't. But a person can get trapped into one of these places and then terrified to say anything, uh, afraid to go, afraid to leave. It's a real horror. And if you don't have any place to go, the shelters in LA and those areas are full. Um, Shelters are also notoriously bad places. Very, very few have good reputations as real places to heal your life and get the kind of true support you need. Shelters, particularly in Los Angeles, California, are renowned as dangerous places. And um, if you sound educated, articulate, God forbid you sound white, uh, some shelter managers will advise you to stay away because they believe that you will be targeted by ex convicts, drug addicts, and other people who are, for whatever reasons, unscrupulous and predatory. So it's a big deal. Of There is no form of life lower than a human trafficker. Wildlife traffickers are right there with them. They're, to me, human traffickers are thug rapists with drugs, and they're no better at all than animal abusers. Somebody who would hurt your cat or hurt your dog to control you, intimidate you, threaten you, terrify you, punish you. A human trafficker is no better than an animal abuser or a child abuser, a pedophile. And it's entirely likely that some of these places target children as well. They drug the whole family. I do also want to say that they're making videos of these people who are being sexually assaulted. Some of them may be well known, some of them may become well known, and then they're threatened with extortion. No joke. I have heard of this happening, and I absolutely believe these reports because they come from extremely credible sources. Um, Someone checks into a hotel. While they're there, they're drugged or raped, stun gunned. If someone can sneak into your hotel room, like the manager, because he's got a key and he doesn't wake you up, if he does wake you up, he says, "Oh, I was just checking. There seemed to be an emergency in here," so he has a legitimate right to be in your room. No. If you don't wake up, they can stun gun you or inject you with something before you wake up that's going to cause memory loss. So they they're making videos of people being sexually assaulted. They can Photoshop them or do a deep fake so that it looks like you're awake and compliant. They have done some other things which are so unscrupulous and abhorrent that I won't even mention them. And then they either try to extort the victim and make the person pay for the tapes, which may be on, in the dark web by now and way out of control, or they threaten the victim with reputational harm and the appearance of compliance when nothing could be further from the truth. People are being sexually assaulted and trafficked like prostitutes who are completely unaware that they're being sexually assaulted and trafficked like prostitutes. And it's probably happening in your town. I know for an absolute fact it's happening in San Diego, California, and Los Angeles, California, because I've talked to way too many law enforcement people, from local cops to DAs, DA employees to Federal Bureau of Investigation people. Now I've talked to the Drug Enforcement Agency and Homeland Security. The reason Homeland Security is involved in these types of things is because the drugs the drugs they're using to traffic people, to sedate them and otherwise compromise them cognitively, are often internationally sold. A lot of them are coming up from Mexico. And I don't know if you all know about it, but Los Angeles, California is considered one of the human trafficking capitals of the North American continent, because people are being brought in as slaves from other countries through the ports and the airports there. But Michigan, innocuous little beautiful Michigan, is also considered a human trafficking hotbed because there's some kind of conduit up into Canada. A lot of people from America or who have been brought into America from other countries are being trafficked into Canada through Michigan. And I'm not exactly sure why, but that's just what the police tell me. So Homeland Security is interested in these criminals because they are also involved in international slave running. Not that there's any just to it, but people are not only drugging and trafficking American citizens and other people who are already in this country, but they're running whole slaves. They're selling whole human beings who are alive and sometimes not. There's an international. God, please don't shoot the messenger. I wish I had better news. But you're a member of a species so greedy, so foul, so corrupt, so lazy, so stupid that in spite of the fact that we live in a world of crying need for all kinds of products and services that are meaningful and helpful and useful and would help us all survive together, your cohorts on this world are so foul that they are actually killing people of all ages, children included, to sell their body parts on an international black market for such things. There's transplant organs, probably other types of reasons people are buying dead people's body parts. Some people sell cadavers to medical schools and experimental research labs, and it happens, and I'm only too certain of it because some of these people have told me over the telephone that that's what they do. People who are involved in human trafficking, both prostituting active, willing participants, conscious, unwilling participants, unconscious, sedated, victims that don't even know that it's happening, human beings sold as slaves, human organs sold after the death of the person who had them and needed them and had every right to keep them. These people are also involved in international illegal weapons sales, including assault weapons. Yeah, the assault weapons that all these kids are going crazy with in classrooms. The assault weapons that these crazy shooters are using to shoot up totally innocent bystanders in public places are being sold by these same human traffickers. And drugs. Cocaine, heroin, methamphetamines, oxycodone, fentanyl, and that's the short list. Then we talk about all the illegally redistributed pharmaceuticals that people are either manipulating doctors into prescribing them, or they have crooked doctors to begin with who are on the take. Um, all these drugs, pharmaceuticals and street drugs, are being sold and utilized also by these. I don't want to curse, but there are some adjectives that go before the term human traffickers that I'm too much of a lady to pronounce in public. These people are vile. These people are toilet slime. These people are the worst possible criminals because they don't care about your choice. They don't care about your privacy. They don't care about your freedom. All they want to do is use you. And they will sell you like a whore because all you did was go to booking.com or, kayak or whatever, hotels.com. It's happened. I know for an absolute fact it's happened. And I want to alert people to be vigilant because if you're naive or uninformed and you don't know that it can happen, you don't understand that it has. So this has to be stopped. The scumbags who rent you a room and then drug you, rape you, and sell you as if you're a willing prostitute, videotape you while you're unconscious or otherwise cognitively compromised, and then offer to extort you for the videos or still photos or make a second income by selling them illegally on the dark web. They sell drugs. They destroy lives. They break hearts. They threaten your pets. And worse, much worse, They threaten your children, your parents, your whatever, your spouses, brothers, sisters. They threaten people because guess what? Because they have a legal right to get your ID and your credit card and so forth when you check in, they know where you live. They have your driver's license number. They have your uh, physical address. They have your credit card numbers. And I'll make this one additional point. One of these, actually, two of these places I know of, because I know because several people who worked there told me so. A hostel in Los Angeles and a hostel in San Diego, the employees themselves were bemoaning the fact that the business owner was telling them to keep people's credit card and debit card numbers so that long after they'd left, they could be charged for additional room days. And the idea was that most people don't check their credit card and debit card billing statements very carefully anyway. So they were unaware that it was happening. And even if it did happen, the hostel would just say it was a mistake. And I'm telling you the truth because employees of these organizations have bemoaned it to me and said they don't know what to do. If they don't do it, they'll lose their jobs. And I say, so lose your job. What the heck kind of illegal crap do you want to get involved with? Who the heck wants to work for a criminal enterprise? Because guess what happens? When you work knowingly for a criminal enterprise and that criminal boss gets caught, they're going to blame you. They are going to finger their own employees who were operating only under their own authority because, after all, they're the rich person who's paid off the cops and probably paid off the judges, maybe slipped a little something to somebody in the DA's office. They're going to try to avoid getting into trouble, and you're just the employee who's going to get thrown into the street, rendered without an income, if you don't do what you're told, and it gets worse from there. It gets way worse than there. If you're stupid enough to continue to work for somebody that unscrupulous, you got to figure out they don't care about you and you could end up dead. You could end up dead because some rich person doesn't want to give up their rich person status and you're just some employee who was at times their minion and at times their victim. So I have such contempt for people without moral dignity that I consider all these people, forgive me if I'm not being politically correct enough, but there's nothing politically correct about rape. These people are toilet slime, strangely disguised somehow as men and women. They are pond scum. They are truly lower forms of life among us, and they need to be identified publicly and reputationally. They need to be arrested, successfully convicted, incarcerated, fined, and put out of business once and for all. I am disgusted by the part of itself that calls itself humanity, that does this to others, threatens people's pets, family, children, property, reputations, lives, defamation, discrediting, fake police reports. It goes on and on and on. I'm Nancy Love. When I was 11 years old, the military intelligence community in Texas started calling me a force of nature. I'm only just now starting to understand why. More soon from the Planet Peace Project. Thank you for your